In 1914, Europe marched confidently into a war they believed would be over by Christmas, utterly blind to a terrifying lesson they'd already witnessed 50 years earlier, and ignored. Welcome to Winds of Thought. The American Civil War was a laboratory of future conflict, a grim preview of industrialized, total war, and every major European power sent their most brilliant military minds across the Atlantic to study it. The reports they sent back were detailed, insightful, and in the end, completely forgotten. Today, we're examining what Europe's observers truly saw in America's bloodbath, and why their warnings were destined to gather dust until it was far too late. Europe's interest in the American conflict was a volatile mix of politics, fear, and desperate curiosity. Publicly, European governments mostly backed the Union, but privately, many among the aristocracy whispered hopes for a Confederate victory. Why? A fractured America meant a weakened beacon of democracy, which could help stifle revolutionary ideas at home. But beyond politics, there was a pressing military need. The recent Crimean War had hinted that technology was changing combat, but the questions outnumbered the answers. Here was a chance to see a truly industrial nation fight a modern war. For military planners, it was an unprecedented opportunity. So, missions were dispatched. But not every nation paid equal attention. Austria's conservative high command dismissed the reports as irrelevant to their European traditions. The newly unified Italy was too preoccupied with its own birth to care. And the Ottoman Empire, weary from its own reforms, filed the observations away and moved on. Then there was Russia, a fascinating case of covert learning. Officially, the Tsar's court showed little interest. Unofficially, they were voracious students. When Russian naval squadrons mysteriously appeared in American ports in 1863, the world saw a political gesture. In truth, they were hiding from British and French fleets and, seizing the chance to learn, they studied ironclads like the USS Monitor obsessively, eventually buying American designs. The Russian army, however, officially stuck to Prussian and French doctrine, though whispers of American cavalry tactics and rifle designs slowly seeped in. The key players, France and Prussia, approached the task with professional rigor. The famous quote about two armed mobs is likely myth. Leaders like Helmuth von Moltke encouraged deep study. So, what was their final, unanimous verdict? They concluded the American war was practically useless as a model for Europe. Their reasoning seemed sound at the time. America was a geographic outlier, vast, rugged, and sparsely populated. European battles were fought in open fields by concentrated professional armies. In America, they saw armies stretched over impossible distances, fighting in dense woodlands where cavalry was useless and artillery blind. The grinding, bloody of stalemates. They blamed amateur officers and civilian soldiers. Europe's professional armies, they believed, would decide things in a few sharp, decisive clashes. It was a comforting conclusion, but one observer, a British colonel named Henry Fletcher, saw something far more disturbing. While others critiqued the Americans' lack of polish, Fletcher saw a terrifying adaptability. The Union Army was a democratic institution, drawing from all classes. Its soldiers were often educated, its junior officers innovative. They quickly abandoned suicidal dense formations for loose skirmish lines, used cover instinctively, and spread tactical wisdom from the bottom up. This was unthinkable in the rigid, aristocratic hierarchies of Europe. Fletcher issued a stark warning. Britain's small professional army was perfect for colonial policing. But if a total war like America's ever came to Europe, it would be annihilated. He argued for universal military training, better public education, and a system to cultivate a vast reserve of capable citizen soldiers. His warning was heeded in one small way, influencing the founding of a military college in Canada. But for the most part, Europe shrugged. Why listen to prophecies of a long, brutal war when recent history proved otherwise? The German unification wars, Prussia's swift, stunning victories over Austria and France were the new textbook. They proved wars could be short, decisive, and won by professional planning, railways, and technology. The American conflict was an ocean away, a bizarre anomaly. The final, tragic irony is that the European observers got the details right, but the big picture catastrophically wrong. They meticulously documented the killing power of new rifles, the dominance of entrenchments, and the logistical marvels of industrial war. They recorded all the pieces, but refused to assemble the puzzle. They couldn't conceive that their own political conflicts could ever become as existential and all-consuming as America's struggle. So, when the guns of August roared in 1914, The very lessons Europe had meticulously gathered and, then discarded awaited them in the muddy fields of Flanders and the Somme. The American Civil War wasn't a poor model for European war. It was the exact blueprint for the war Europe swore could never happen. If you found this journey into forgotten history compelling, show your support. It helps this channel grow. Give this video a like and subscribe to Winds of Thought for more deep dives into the turning points everyone missed. They documented the future, then chose to ignore its warning.